In a data frame, we can access elements using the square brackets. For example, row 2, column 2, and we get B. But we can also do this. Leave a space, comma, then 2. This returns everything in column 2. If we repeat this, and then 1, it returns everything in column 1. And if we multiply this by 10, we get multiples of 10. Notice that we are now taking this away from being a data frame and returning a vector. You can check this by using is.vector and you'll see that yes, this has been converted to a vector. If you use is.dataframe for this operation, I'll just copy and paste this here. You'll see that it's false. So it's definitely been converted to a vector. How do we perform operations on data frames while still retaining the structure of a data frame? This brings us to adding or modifying columns. Let's take our DT object as an example. We can take row 1 of column 1, multiply that by 2, and you see it's now 2. It was initially 1. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky with data frames. To change specific parts, you need to explicitly reassign that part. So getting row 1 column 1 times 2 gives us 2. But here, if we say dt at row 1 column 1 times 2 and assign it back to dt at row 1 column 1, it gives us the result 2. If we print dt, you will see we now have a 2 there at the top of col hex. This can be quite difficult to work with, especially if you want to change individual positions. It's quite tricky and laborious. But this actually leads us to one of our lessons where we'll cover control structures. Control structures allow us to determine how our code is executed, given that certain conditions are met. Now, if we print dt, you will see the change in results. The best way to approach this is if you want to change either row-wise or column-wise. That's generally a better way to work with data frames, and that's often what happens in practice. Oftentimes, we don't want to change a particular single value. What you often want to do is operate on an entire variable. This is why data frames are so commonly used for variable level operations. For example, we can modify column 1 and ensure that this time around, column 1 is multiplied by 10. So we access that column again, then multiply it by 10 this time. And once you print the result, you will see the change. Now, we can do the same for column 2, but you need to realize that you are working with a character data type there. You can, for instance, make this uppercase and see, it's all uppercase now. These are all simple operations we can perform. For now, there's also another way to access columns in R, aside from using the square bracket, which we've already done. You can use the $sign. The $sign makes it quite easy because once you type it, you will see options to choose the column you're interested in. So we have dt col x, and here we have dt col y. This also makes it easy for us to create a new column. For example, we can say dt col z, and dt col z will be dt col x divided by 15. Now, once we print dt, you will see we have a new column, col z. So now we are going to do a quick exercise. I'll write the instructions for you in a bit. In this exercise, you round up the values of col z to the nearest 10 decimal points. So give me a moment while I type out the task. There you have it. What you're expected to do is you round up the values of col z in the dt object and you round it up to 2 decimal places. This time around, you have to use the $sign. Don't use the square brackets. And ensure you reassign the result of this operation to a new column called w. Well, I hope that went well. I trust that you got this right. It's quite easy to do. If you didn't get it right, that's okay. We're going to do it together now. So we take our dt object, then the $sign, col w, since we want to create a new column here. And what the value of the new column will be is the rounded value of col z. And we are rounding this up to 2 decimal points. That's it. If I print our results, you'll see that col w is the rounded values of col z. It is important to note that most of the operations we can perform on matrix data structures, we can also do that on data frames. Functions like rbind and cbind for row and column binding, as well as strarg for checking the structure, and other functions we used in the matrix lessons can also be used here. Next up, we are going to cover list, which is the last of the data structures for this section. Then we move on to converting the different data structure from one form to another.